Hiya folks, and welcome to another episode of From Amateur to Expert Daily. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Let's talk about the kind of mindset that you need and the mental orientation required to get your head around a large body of material. If you need to master a huge amount of information and material in order to achieve a qualification, to position yourself as an expert, to learn a new skill, here is an interesting way of looking at it. The other day I saw a post about how much reading it takes to become a doctor. The photo showed a man surrounded by the textbooks that he had read in order to complete his doctorate. And of course the spirit of the thing was to show reverence for the learning and to show the validity of doctoral level thinking. But of course the unintended consequence of that is to intimidate people who are approaching this sort of thing for the first time. You might view this mountain of textbooks and think, well, it's impossible. It can't be done by mere mortals like myself. And I'd like to address that idea. I studied for a degree in philosophy, certainly not as far as a doctorate, but I did a 3-year degree. And I remember conducting that exact same experiment. At the end of it all, I had all of my textbooks in one place, and I was staggered by this wall of literature that was this 3-year course. And yet at the same time, it wasn't as complex as what it might appear visually, because it is, after all, only a certain number of themes, and then you go around in circles on those themes. Let's take, for example, the idea of becoming a medical doctor. No doubt that is highly complex, and you have to be a learned individual before you're allowed to operate on others. But what are we talking about there? We're talking about understanding the human body. That really is the heart and soul of it. Then you go into complexity. You understand parts of the human body. Then you understand systems in the human body. And then you look at things like how systems react to external stimulus, to germs, to infections, to physical harm. And everything you study is really about that theme. So yes, it has complex levels of detail, but it's actually all the same thing going into smaller and smaller detail on repeat themes. Now take something like philosophy, same exact story. You would think that to study for a degree or even a doctorate in philosophy would require that you take in mind-numbing amounts of information. And yet all of the ideas are really about big central themes. Sure, it may be all the thinking from antiquity back in the Greek era all the way up to today, but people think about the same things. It's where do we come from? How do we know things? How do we know what we know? What is knowledge? And it goes round and round in circles on that. And once you understand that there are these major themes that you simply repeat and go into smaller and smaller levels of detail, you realize that the total body of knowledge is not actually that intimidating. Sure, it's a mountain of books, but the books are all saying the same thing and going into a bit more detail on specific areas of the same thing. So, if you are setting out on the beginning, if you are embarking on your journey to take in a vast amount of knowledge, please don't be intimidated by the size of the books, by the duration of the course, by this sheer body of knowledge that you have to master. Ask yourself simple questions. What's it about? What are the major themes? And every time you find that you're getting lost in the detail and you're getting thrown by how much complexity there is, zoom back for a second and just ask yourself those orienting questions. What are we talking about? Which subcategory is this? What's the detail? What's the person trying to say? Once you've had that simple realization, it starts to dawn on you that mastering a body of content is never as difficult as it initially appears. There may be a lot of books involved, but they're all saying more or less the same thing. They look at different areas, they go into greater complexity, they all do the same thing. So, what do you want to master? What are its major themes? How long until you get started?